Good morning. Welcome to the premium and public video forecast discussion for Wednesday, October 5th, 2016. This will be the last one for the rest of the week unless things significantly change in the forecast for the northern mid-Atlantic with regards to Hurricane Matthew. Now, there's a lot that has changed over the past 24 hours, and I can explain why. Exactly what's going on. The first model to pick up this change was the European model guidance, but it did so in a rather unconventional manner that even now doesn't agree with the latest 0Z model guidance that came out at about 2 a.m. But it still comes about with the same type of solution, just in a slightly different way. I'll explain why that's important in the latest observations and what we're seeing now and why this is so important. The overall theme here is that Hurricane Matthew will not impact the northern mid-Atlantic based on the latest guidance we have right now. Can that change? Possibly, but right now I really don't see that changing in the forecast, and neither does the National Hurricane Center for that matter. So here we have with the current observations. It's nice and chilly out there. It's fall after all. Temperatures range in the mid to upper 40s in the northern suburbs, and lower to mid 50s in the suburbs around the cities, and mid to upper 50s along the coast and in your major cities. Winds are from the northeast around 5 to 15 miles per hour. They will veer to the east as we move on over the next couple of days, with high pressure in complete control sitting here over Maine and remaining in place for the next several days. So from now on through Friday, it's going to be absolutely beautiful out. If you're going to the Mets game this evening, it's going to be perfect. You might need a jacket, but overall, it's going to be nice weather out there. Low humidity, comfortable temperatures, seasonable. Here's our cold front for Saturday. This is going to move through. Now, this cold front in this trough is what was supposed to capture Hurricane Matthew and send it up the coast. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. On the radar, not much going on. It's pretty much high and dry. And here we have Hurricane Matthew. Now, Hurricane Matthew is now to the north of Cuba. It's starting to move into the Bahamas. It has winds of 115 miles per hour, so it's weakened slightly based on the influences of Cuba. But it is moving into very favorable waters and conditions, so do not be surprised if this hurricane re-intensifies once again to a Category 3 or 4 hurricane and impacts much of the Bahamas over the next 24 to 36 hours. So its winds are 115 miles per hour, pressure's at 964 millibars, and it's moving to the north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. Now, the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center clearly has changed significantly. Takes the hurricane up through the Bahamas towards the Florida coast, but notice the forecast for the most part does not bring the storm onshore. It never makes landfall. Now that could change slightly. It could skirt the coast here, but the overall theme here on all the model guidance that I've been looking at is that this hurricane comes very close but never actually makes landfall on Florida's coast. It skirts up towards the Georgia coastal waters, towards the South Carolina coastal waters, the North Carolina coastal waters, but then, unlike in previous forecasts, it does not head to the northeast, but it heads due east and just kind of meanders out here over the next couple of days because of one reason. Here we have the water vapor satellite picture. This is the trough that we've been watching. Now, the original idea was this. Our hurricane was going to move through the Bahamas, lift up towards Florida, and then this trough was going to capture the hurricane, send it up through the North Carolina coastal waters, and then somewhere track in this neck of the woods here. Now, the question was whether how far west was it going to get. Would it be able to get close enough to produce very heavy rains for New Jersey, or will it stay far enough out that we only get about a quarter to a half an inch of rain with the actual cold front itself? Turns out this upper level low here is stronger than what was originally forecasted. Now, the European guidance yesterday basically produced this wave of low pressure, which we see right here, and really just bomb it out and produce a very deep trough over portions of Quebec. And that led to a strongly negatively tilted trough, and this hurricane just kind of meandering and actually ending up moving right over Florida. That is not going to happen, okay? It was clearly some sort of error that was happening with the upper level shortwave interacting with another shortwave, or what we call a trough, over portions of the Hudson Bay. Instead, what we're seeing, which is more reasonable because we're actually seeing it in real time, is that this upper level low here is a little bit stronger than was originally forecasted. And so the trough is lifting north faster than what was expected 24 hours ago. So as a result, the base of the trough, the bottom of the trough, basically tracks towards the mid-Atlantic, but a little bit too far north, just far enough north to miss Hurricane Matthew and not allow it to get entrained northward. So that's basically what we're dealing with here. Other features that we're watching but won't have an impact on our forecast. We have Tropical Storm Nicole here. This is going to continue to meander out here in the central Atlantic and head out into the northern Atlantic over the next 7 days or so. It'll have no impact on this forecast. And of course, here's our Hurricane Matthew that is lifting up towards the Bahamas. So that's basically the whole name of the story here. The trough and the strongest lifting is going to be lifted a little bit further north than what was originally forecasted. And so as a result, the trough never captures Hurricane Matthew. So Hurricane Matthew lifts up towards the Carolina coastal waters and then just kind of meanders between the ridge in the western Atlantic and that trough departing. So it just kind of meanders out here until it's finally caught by another trough by next week and sends it out into the northwestern Atlantic. So if you have any interest in the Bahamas, it's going to get ugly around there. That is for sure. Not only does it get hit once, but it could get hit twice by this hurricane. If you have an interest along the Florida coast, Georgia coast, South Carolina coast, or North Carolina coast, continue to keep an eye on this hurricane as it will have impacts. Now, the latest guidance, again, does not have the actual storm track onto the coast. It does not make landfall. But this is a large storm. So even if you don't get hurricane force winds, you certainly will get tropical storm force winds and very heavy rainfall. So we're going to have to watch that very carefully. But as far as interest for Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York City, and then Connecticut, high and dry, not much of an impact whatsoever as this hurricane remains well to the south, and the most we deal with is a cold front moving through. I just want to show you the European guidance, give you an idea. This is 500 millibars. Now, what these are 500 millibar heights, and then the black lines here are the actual surface troughs. So here's our low pressure system, here's our cold front, here's our trough that we're watching very carefully. And then, of course, here's our hurricane. So the idea, as we fast forward through the end of the week, again, you see that ridge, the Western Atlantic ridge building across. Remember, the original forecast was to take this hurricane out here into the Atlantic with no impacts, but we recognize that the ridge is much stronger. So you see the track closer to the coast. Now, again, here's the key point here. We'll go to, let's say, Saturday. It's 66 hours out. I'm trying to say Friday afternoon. Okay, here we are Friday afternoon. This trough was supposed to be down here, but now the trough is forecasted to be up here. Here's the base of the trough. So here's our hurricane approaching the Florida coast, becoming very close to landfall, but doesn't actually make landfall. It's right along the coast. As we move towards Friday night into Saturday, as that hurricane's lifting north around the Western Atlantic ridge, the trough is too far north. Originally, this trough axis was down here around Kentucky and the Tennessee River Valley. So what that would lead to, obviously, was a strong southwesterly flow and send this storm due north. Instead, by the time our hurricane gets to the North Carolina coastal waters, the base of the trough is almost due north of the hurricane. So as a result, what you end up with are upper level winds like this. Okay, they're rotating like this. And so where does our hurricane go? Basically, it follows those upper level winds. It moves due east. Now, by the time we get to Sunday night into Monday, the influences of that trough lift out. The ridge is in place. There's no real steering currents, so it just kind of meanders out here over the Atlantic with us having no impacts, and of course the southeast coast continue to have impacts. If it's not directly from the rainfall, it will certainly be from the coastal flooding and also from the beach erosion as the Atlantic is really going to be turned up here. And don't be surprised to see some pretty impressive waves over the mid-Atlantic coast as well, just because the storm is going to be meandering about and it's going to turn up the seas quite a bit. So that's basically the idea here, is that the reason why we're not seeing this storm come further north is that the trough that was supposed to pick it up is further north, and so it basically swings and misses, almost like a baseball player swinging at a fastball. It just is a pattern in which the trough does not capture the hurricane, and so therefore the hurricane meanders about over the Atlantic rather than moving out into the northern Atlantic or making landfall on the southeast coast. So let's dive into this forecast. For this afternoon, high pressure will be in complete control with temperatures in the upper 60s to lower 70s for highs. As we move on through tonight, high pressure will remain over the region with temperatures falling into the mid to upper 40s for lows over the interior, lower to mid 50s in your urban areas. For tomorrow afternoon, high pressure in place, clear skies, winds from the east. High temperatures will remain in the lower to mid 70s. On Friday, high pressure again sitting right over the region with clear skies to sky cloud cover, lows in the lower to mid 50s, a couple of mid to upper 40s in your northern suburbs, highs in the mid 70s. For Saturday, high pressure gives way. Our cold front starts to approach the region. Look for showers in the afternoon. Our Hurricane Matthew moves up towards the South Carolina coastal waters, but does not push any further north of North Carolina. By the time we get to Sunday, we're going to have clearing skies. Now, just to backtrack, on Saturday, look for lows in the upper 50s to lower 60s. In the afternoon, highs in the lower 70s with a few showers. On Sunday, high pressure builds in. Could be a little bit windy from the north-northwest at around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 20 miles per hour at times. But the key note here is that clear skies can be expected with lows in the mid-50s, highs in the mid to upper 60s. On Monday, high pressure remains in control with clear skies expected, lows in the lower 50s, highs in the mid to upper 60s. And on Tuesday, high pressure again remaining in place with lows in the lower to mid 50s, highs in the lower to mid 70s. And finally, on Wednesday, high pressure again sitting right over the region with low temperatures in the mid to upper 50s, high temperatures in the upper 60s to lower 70s. That is your forecast discussion for today. Thank you for following NYNJPA Weather, and as always, stay safe out there.